So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and the last time that we looked at Likutei Moharan and Rebbe Nachman, he had this metaphor that he was talking about David HaMelech, who's a master musician. And he said that David HaMelech also represents Malchus. He is the king. He's the bottom line. He holds up everything else. All that flows through David HaMelech. So he says this refers to Netzach and Hod, because Netzach and Hod, those two spheros, which are the last spheros of the body of Zeranpin, for they nourish the prophet-centered concept of building up Malchus. So let's see over here where he has a little thing on Netzach and Hod, a little arichas on it. Let's see what we can learn from it. So he said, Netzach and Hod, building up Malchus. As mentioned, Malchus has nothing of its own. It is comprised solely of that which Netzach and Hod give it, namely mochin, which are the mentalities, but I say that's the energy source of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and everything else, all the mentalities, I guess, of the intellect as well, and the vessels with which to receive them. So he said Netzach and Hod makes it possible for Malchus to be able to receive Shefa, that flow of bracha, from up above. And provided these Netzach and Hod construct Malchus. This is the meaning of Netzach and Hod, that they are the concept of building up Malchus. He says, thus King David deserved kingship because he was skilled in song. Where does song come from? Which stems from Netzach and Hod. And because he nursed the sheep, he knew from there where to draw the proper nourishment. Now there's a lot to this. Let's read some more. The story of David's being, and other places I've seen that they say, shall we say, David HaMelech. But being chosen to play music before King Shaul has a further connection with our lesson. At the outset, Rebbe Nachman explained that the two live pure birds, remember that? The pure birds that you have to bring, the leper has to bring these. The source of song are brought as a sacrifice by the leper who spoke slander. This, the Talmud, teaches that Doeg, the one who lauded David HaMelech, actually slandered him. In his apparent praise, Doeg, our sages say, extolled David's Torah knowledge and ability to clarify the law. In fact, he intentionally spoke in a manner that caused Shaul to become jealous of David and desired to kill him. The reason God's Spirit left Shaul was because he blemished prophecy. At God's command, Shmuel instructed Shaul to wipe out Amalek. This nation is the personification of Malchus of the other side, whose entire aim is to draw nourishment and steal nourishment, to suck from and subsequently overwhelm the Malchus of Kedusha, because they have no strength of their own. That's the Malchus of the other side needs to suck off of Kedusha. Shaul, however, failed to receive in his mission, and as a result, lost his Malchus, his kingship, the Holy Spirit. He was therefore opening to receiving Doeg's slander. So since he made a mistake in one area, he caused a lesion in his Kedusha. So he was open to receive some slander because he had done something inadequate as the king. And now it was good to knock down someone else, which when he did, this caused a further blemish, a lesion in his Malchus. He bled from that place. The other side comes to those places. David, meanwhile, arose every night at midnight, at which time he studied the oral law. His Torah was the Torah of loving kindness. He said David also sung many songs in praise. We know this from the Psalms, in praise of God. He consequently merited rectifying both voice and speech as duly deserving of kingship. So over here he's telling you that the real singer, the true singer, is our king, David. So now he writes in review, listening to the singing of a virtuous person is beneficial to serving God. Listening to the singing of a wicked person is detrimental. The reason is that song, which corresponds to prophecy, stems from these two sphirot, which are called Netzach and Hod. the two spheres that nurse Malchus, because they have direct connection to feeding Malchus. A person is sustained by the vitality he receives from one of the two manifestations of Malchus. Consequently, commensurate with his deeds, he draws either from Malchus of holiness or Malchus of the other side. Now, this seems to me a little bit complicated of how the person draws from one side or the other, the flow of Shefa, either from the side of selfishness and falseness, or from the side of Kedusha, which is the desire to cling to God. To protect one's self from harmful singers and song, one should study the oral law Talmud at night. This will rectify song and protect him from blemishing the Malchus of Kedusha. King David attained kingship. How? Because he actually became absorbed into Malchus. Because he rectified the voice, song, and knew how to draw song, that is to nurse Malchus, from holiness. Now, let's go on. We're going to another section here, and we have a little bit more time, so let's start it. Now, he wants to start darshaning this Rabba Bar Chana that we learned previously. And let me just go back over that. Let me find it back here. It's coming. It says like this: Rabba Bar Chana recounted, I myself saw this akruta that was an akra de hagrunya. So what's an akruta? Akruta is like a sound type of name, like an assonance. It means a croaker, a frog. And here's akra, it means a city, de hagrunya. Grun is a word gorin, which is throat. The city of Agrunya. And how large was the city of Agrunya? Well, here we come onto the number 6, 60 houses. 60 different prakim, what is it? 60 different, is it right? The prakim is the right word. Mesechtes, there we go, the Mishnah. A serpent came by and swallowed it. A serpent came by. That's a sign of the evil. A shpushkansa came by. So then came this black female raven and swallowed the serpent. It ascended and perched on a tree. Come see how great the strength of the tree is. Now that was the point, and let's see starting here, what the Rebbe has to say. This is the meaning of a Rabba Bar Chana said. I myself saw this akrukta, which Rashban comments that this is a tzvardeya, or a tzipor, which means speaking out your knowledge. So he says, so just a comment on that. He says, tzvardeya, the Ari teaches in Shar Pesukim that the term tzvardeya is a composite of the Hebrew word for bird, tzipor, and the word dea, which means awareness or knowledge. The tzipor is Malchus, which is built up with dea, the builders of Malchus being Netzach and Hod, bring the chef of Chochmah Bina to it. So let's go on. A very nice little thing. So he says this is, that was as big as the Akra de Hagrunya, the city of Agrunya. This is phonetically called Kra Begoran. So you could Akra, take away the little bit of aleph here and just concentrate on these as Kra, which means to call, Begoran, in the throat. So all of these ideas, I don't see the base in here, there's a base, de Hagrunya. So what it means, in the throat. Cry out from the throat. This song is drawn from the tzipor dea mentioned above. And how large was Akra de Agrunya, the city? It was 60 houses. This is, by what means is the concept of cry out from the throat rectified? By means of the 60 houses, the 60 tractates of the Talmud. Thus, Rashbam comments. The Talmud says this: one should study Talmud. A serpent came by and swallowed it. What does that mean? Rashbam comments, Rabbah says that is, his study was not for its own sake. It was for the sake of the snake, which is selfish. And so the serpent swallowed it. This is why Rashbam comments Rabba says, that is, Rabba Baba Chana says, he studied in order to be called Rabbi. Rabbi. Just a little side note. Oh, so I guess we'll do the side note and then we'll go on from next year. He says Rabbi. He says the term Gavra Rabba, the great man, is used in the Talmud to refer to a rabbinical scholar of repute. Rabbi Nachman explains Rashban's comment that it was Rabbah who said this, as alluding to a person who studies to become a rabbi, great one, for an interior motive. I mean, who wants to be great? A person becomes great as a result of studying Lishma, but if his goal is to become great, that's an ulterior motive. He studies not for the sake of study alone, but in order to be called rabbi, not all that meritorious a motive. In the concept of Rabbi Baba Chana's story, therefore, the Akrukta, which is the Svardeya, the Tzipor, which is his study of the oral law, is in danger of being swallowed by a snake. This swallowing symbolizes turning his Shlo Lishma study for personal gain into the truly reprehensible study whose motive is one upsmanship and argumentation. How can a person protect himself from this circle? That's the shiur here today. This is Baruch Fleischman. I'm at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. I hope you're enjoying these shiurim.